all the investors and startups who have took their time and also spent their time with us. And I hope this session will lead to some very interesting conversations for them. Thank you for your time, and I do hope that it leads to next journey for both of you, both the investors and the startups. And I really hope that it was a learning session for all the young entrepreneurs in the room, and also investors in the room who may be learning from these interactions as well. So, without much of further ado, let me welcome Mr. Sarbvir Singh, joined Group CEO, Policybazaar FinTech. Mr. Sarbvir has over 25 years of global experience across corporate leadership role. Prior to joining Policybazaar, he was venture capitalist and also served in a senior leadership positions with digital media companies. He was most recently managing partner of Waterbridge Ventures, a leading early stage venture fund. Let's have a round of applause to welcome him. Thank you, sir, for being here. Let me call on stage Deepit, co-founder Inshorts and Public App. Thank you, Deepit. Deepit, a computer science and engineering graduate from IIT Kharagpur, started building Inshorts right out of the college in 2013, along with Azhar Iqbal and Anvay Arnav Pandey. They have recently celebrated their 10th year anniversary. He is responsible for overseeing products, data, and strategy in the company. He has also made it to the Forbes Asia 30 under 30 media marketing advertising list for 2018 and Forbes India 30 under 30 list of 2016. Inshorts is India's highest rated #1 app, short news app with more than 10 million active users. So let's have a round of applause for Deepit. My next guest is Navnit Nakra, CRO, Pinelabs. As the CRO of Pinelabs, Navnit take care of maximizing revenue streams for payment business in India, developing and executing growth strategies, new business generation, and streamlining processes for attaining efficiencies according to company statement. Before joining Pinelabs, Navnit associated with OnePlus as CEO of India region and headed the company's India operations and overall business strategy in the country. He's also led Apple's affordability business for India apart from his stint at OnePlus. Let's have a round of applause to welcome Navnit, please. And my last guest on the panel is Ajay Chhabra, Head of Corporate Business Development and Strategy, Microsoft India. Ajay has 14 years of experience with Telecom, Bharti Airtel and Idea, leading businesses and e-commerce Snapdeal and FinTech Paytm, and tech sector leading strategic partnerships at Meta and Facebook. He experienced business professional with demonstrated history of working in the internet industry, strong professional skill in marketing management, negotiation, business planning, and customer life cycle management and sales. Over to you, gentlemen. I really look forward to the session. Thank you.
Hello. Am I audible? Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much. As everyone knows, GenAI has been at the inflection point of tech innovation. And there is so much of goodness in GenAI, but it's very important to build whatever we are building in an ethical and responsible way. If we are able to do that in a responsible and ethical way, there will be huge amount of opportunity we as Indians can expose ourselves to, be it startups, be it unicorns, be it any of the conglomerates. So today we have 3 gentlemen with us who will share their journey, how they are building, what are the guardrails they are taking when they build the innovation in their product. So maybe, Deepit, we can start with you, since yours is a consumer app where consumers are always dying for getting new features every day. So when you try to build these innovations in your product, how do you manage the innovation vis-a-vis the AI enablement, which does not lead to any kind of data infringement or which keeps your platform very secure?
Thank you, and it feels very humbled to be beginning in a panel where I'm probably the youngest, where others all have so much more experience than me. But the way we have been thinking about AI has been not just right now. In fact, before even Gen AI or even large language models were a thing, we were in an active partnership with Carnegie Mellon University because even 4 years back, we had already created in world's one of the largest data sets of humanly written news summaries. And as everyone knows, like data is the primary asset over which assets like large language models get built. So that's like a derivative asset, right? So we were trying those things, but of course, bigger companies, obviously, and better talent, obviously, have a much more headway to crack these things. So yeah, once large language models were here, it was here to stay. So the biggest challenge, ethical boundary challenge that we usually face in our kind of our line of work is mostly around when you are training any kind of AI models on any kind of content, right? Content is mostly publicly available, publicly scrapable, and perhaps there is no way to track that a particular AI model was built using probably 100,000 sources of content who just put their content out in public because they had no idea that they could be scraped and a derivative asset of the scale of chat GPT or even stable diffusion could be built, right? So I think that is the place where we also face a similar issue because we are a fundamentally tech platform where there are lots of content partners. And even when we are trying to say train a summarization engine, a very small use case, the same problem comes that we can, obviously for a summarization engine, you need to feed in the complete full article as well, right? To create the summary in that data set. How do you kind of, I think in the current parameters or in the current negotiations, even the person who should be taking the other party is not even aware that they should be negotiating these rights. So I think at the moment, the AI storm is very, very lull. People are not even aware the kind of negotiations that they will have to be careful of, especially things like medical data, financial data, of which there are two very esteemed speakers on the panel. I think people are not even aware that how their data, even if it is a small 5% contributor in a larger pool or the larger ocean of data that is going to be used, is a critical part in making sure that that outcome happens. And people should be willing to negotiate the commercial rights around that data. So I think that is something that I think is very important.
Very well said. Thanks, Deepit. This was really elaborate answer. Just building on this point, as you mentioned, insurance and fintech plays a very, very important part. So, Navnit, my next question will be for you. Wanted to understand, when you try and train your AI models, how do you make sure that you steer away from any kind of biases or any kind of, basically biases are not in the data training?
Thanks, Ajay. And first and foremost, a very warm welcome to everyone out here. A special thanks to Microsoft and Team TII for inviting us here. It's very humbling to be on this setup where we have a large corporate like Microsoft running the AI power of the world. And we have three companies. We are trying to build the AI power for India context. So before I get started, I think there is so much of talk about AI today, but one of the misconceptions about AI is, or the ethical side of AI is that it's going to take over the world in this Matrix trilogy manner that, you'll have Agent Smiths running around and doing that. But the answer is that it's not that bleak. So any of you who are running your businesses or plan to be entrepreneurs, do get into AI. Don't think too much about the dark side of AI today. The opportunity is far and deep. Coming to the question, Ajay, that you have asked about, how do you get the right data sets in? I think the first responsibility of this AI engine is that the technology leaders in the organization, which is either the risk management team or the information team or the CTO of the company, have to ensure that diversity of data sets is a prime option and a default setting. Today, whether you have biases coming in selectively, you're coming in through an option, or coming in inadvertently, in the short term, most engines will give you a result which may seem palatable, but in the long term, a non-diverse data set is a recipe for disaster. Now, speaking about part of the fintech world that I'm from and what we're seeing around digital lending platforms is that the ability for selective bias to creep in is very, very easy. Now, let's take an example. I'm a human sitting behind a bank desk, and invariably, your mental model or the mental baggage will come in is that, maybe this said about the place this person is from, the age, the gender, the profile, the socioeconomic cuts may end up biasing you. But AI solves for that, provided the technology leader decides that, yes, I'm going to have a diversity of data set coming in. And then you do the number crunching and the algorithm crunching to bring out a very, very fair response out. Over a period of time, the responsibility of anybody who's running an AI-powered engine, and believe you me, if any of you are running a manufacturing output, an agrarian output, a services company, AI is here to stay in each of your fields. But the input of that data set has to be far more thought out, because if you're going to get garbage in, chances are that what comes out is going to be garbage in the long term. Before I hand over back to you, my appeal to maybe some of the younger folks in the crowd who may be going to a university, who may be coming out of the university, folks who are looking to develop AI skills, do not get into a university program which is just teaching you coding. When you get into an AI training program, pick up economics, pick up finance, pick up statistics, pick up psychology, because this will broaden your thinking of what the future of the human impact of AI is, which is exactly today's topic. The ethical part of AI is the way humans end up guiding machines to bring the right output. So back to you, Ajay.
Thanks, Navnit. I picked a few points, Navnit, which you said that the recipe is very, very important. We need to have diverse data set. Sarbvir, my next question will be for you. I wanted to understand, whenever you are devising a strategy or devising an innovative product for your customers, what are the guardrails or what are the premise you build so that you are equipped in the beginning itself, that you're not compromising any of the data sets for your customers, internal as well as external?
Sure. First, of course, thanks for having me and Policybazaar as part of this panel. Obviously, this is a very fascinating subject, and actually, I was a bit worried when I was put on this panel because I was, saying ki kaise, matlab, we are just about getting there in terms of AI to worry about the ethics of it. So I'm glad that Navnit also partly agrees with me. Second thing, I was very relieved to know that our panel is not between you and drinks. So there is some other stuff also. So I think you can concentrate a bit. I think, the context that we have, right? Insurance is all about trust. So the first thing that I think it's important to understand our context. Insurance is about trust. Insurance is a pay now, use later product. It's the ultimate thing that you're going to pay today in the hope that, someone or the company that you buy from will come through when the moment happens. And most of the moments that happen are full of anxiety. They are not moments which are joyous. So it's very, very kind of at that time, you're also a bit worried when it happens. So I think when the reason I'm giving you this context is that to answer the question, like whatever we do, we have to think about this situation and say that anything that we do, whether it's AI or applying any other tool, has to understand this point. So the guardrails that we must have are actually quite severe, simply because we have very deeply personal information, right, about people, their families, their health history, the incident that may have happened to them at that point. And as you know, there are always bad actors. So in our industry, one of our biggest challenges is that the bad actors who are only few % of the total, but they are very large percentage of the claims and of the issues. So they cause the good people to go through a lot of hoops, which they would not have had to go through unless if these small sliver of people hadn't been there. So point I'm trying to make is that whenever we apply any technology, including artificial intelligence or now the large language models that are coming through, is that we have to think about this thing and say that no personal information should be visible to anybody. One of the things that we've learned is forget about the diversity of the data set. First is to organize the data set, right? Because you don't always have 100% of fields for everything. So like our company is about 15 years old. First 4 years, we were a certain type of company. Then, for another 7, 8 a certain type, and then obviously last 5-6 we are different. So we have different types of data available for these 15 years. In some cases we have call records since 2008, but in many cases we only have history for the last 5-6 years. Now, how do you manage this heterogeneous set and create models that, I think as Navnit was explaining, that you don't end up interpreting something which is not actually the truth. It's just that the data that you have belongs to, that time frame. So I think we spend a lot of time and energy in organizing the data first. We also spend a lot of time and energy in making sure that everything is sort of looked at in an aggregate manner and not, because one of the mistakes that I feel happen many times is that when you look at too small data, like you look at the set which is too small, you can come up with all kinds of crazy, outcomes. And those outcomes are very, very powerful. It looks like, wow, the fit is very high and all that. So actually, at least I have found that if the fit is too high, I think, something is going wrong rather than going right. So we look at that, and finally I'll tell you that we have a concept of human in the loop. So even when we do any kind of face matching, video, voice matching, or any kind of checking whether this Aadhaar card and this person's is the same or not, we have a human being who basically the AI or the system flags, let's say 10% of the issues, and then those 10% are looked at by a human being before we say, okay, this is right or this is wrong. So at least we are, I think, still at that stage where we need the human in the loop before we can make a determination. But I think that's kind of where we are right now.
Thanks. I think we'll soon reach a stage where we'll not need a human in the loop, Sarbvir. And should be soon. Okay, you made a very valid point, the PII piece. It has to be very deeply secured. And I'll just go a step further. It's not only for our external customers, but for our internal customers, which is employees, right? So the question for you over here is, I see employees at the center of innovation which is happening inside the company. So we need to instill lots and lots of confidence in them that they don't need to worry about any kind of data infringement, and they need to only focus on creativity, creating new solutions, innovations. So what are the steps you're taking at Inshorts to keep the data secure, which is instilling confidence in your employees to go and innovate more?
So I think this is a slightly harder question to answer, because at the moment, obviously there will be a lot of functions in the organization that are helping build the data sets for you, that may put these, that people may think will put these entire functions out of work in 5 years, right? But as a policy, I think a lot of companies have started coming up with announcements. So we are also learning from the ecosystem. Like, for example, I think the Zerodha CEO came out with an announcement that they will do no firing because of any AI innovation, right? That happens. So I think these sorts of policies are very, very good, because what it does is that it makes sure that any kind of dividend that comes from the innovation, it kinds of scales employee productivity, and then it impacts the company's P&L rather than bypassing employee productivity as a layer altogether. So I think that is something that we are also doing. So for any kind of, we are not thinking, okay, this will impact our cost by so much. We are thinking, okay, this will impact our scale of input that we can generate in the same cost base by 10x. So that it's just a different lens of looking at things, which puts employees at ease.
Thank you. In fact, I have a follow-up on this, but I will address this to Navnit. Wanted to understand, we have read lots and lots of news that AI may impact jobs. It will create a lot of redundancy in the market. What's your stand on this? And how are you instilling confidence in your employees that, hey, you're here for good? Till the time you are delivering the innovation, till the time you are creating impact, you're here for good.
I think that's a great question, and a very tricky question as well, I must say. But before I do that, I'd like to take a poll from the audience, if you allow me.
Absolutely.
How many in the audience are entrepreneurs? It's fantastic. Please keep your hands up. Please keep your hands up. I'll not take more than 3 seconds. How many of you were working in some sort of a corporate job before you became entrepreneurs? Most of you. So, sir, is it more fun being an entrepreneur, or was it more fun being a salaried employee? And right now you're speaking to a salaried employee, right? Being an entrepreneur, why? You have more autonomy. Have you created jobs by being an entrepreneur? All right. So Ajay, thank you, sir. What's your good name? Saurabh. Wish you all the best, Saurabh, in your venture. Ajay, what's happening across the world is this concept of cross-skilling and upskilling across industries. Now, AI and the impact of AI on jobs is no different from the impact of what Mr. Ford had when he set up the assembly line, or what Honda had when they completely made robotic arms to set up cars. That impact is here to stay. But what's changing is with entrepreneurs like Saurabh and many others, they are trying to find a market where new skills by innovation, whether innovation led by technology or not is irrespective, but it's creating a new set of clients for them and therefore creating a new skilled workforce for them. Now, AI, does it have a direct impact on people? The answer is possibly yes and possibly no. If I have a set of people who is taking shorthand today versus people who are willing to be on the field, create jobs, create market, but using a digital voice recorder, maybe that's a smarter use of AI. So I think somehow this question comes to many forums and to many of us in a very loaded manner, saying that does AI have an impact on jobs? My personal belief, and this is not Pinelabs speaking, this is Navnit speaking, my personal belief is yes, in a very positive way. If we do not upskill or cross-skill ourselves, then it's not just AI, but any change which is happening in the world is going to leave us behind. And the nature of change is that it's going to make us uncomfortable. I've been a very, very proud and a fanboy of Inshorts from the day you guys started. Is the way you have been able to crunch this data, bring it in a form factor. The change that you've got it is brilliant. Text plus video, now categorization. I was speaking with Sarbvir that, when Policybazaar just got started, I was with Yashish, Alok, and the team at that time. And the pivot that you spoke about from data sets, I think change is happening in our own organizations. If as employees, we are not gearing up for that change, then it's not a technology which is going to leave us behind. So, Ajay, very nicely, I have not answered your question,
I see
but
that.
I've answered a framework. But we truly believe that it's an opportunity for us to upskill ourselves and our teams and become smarter with AI.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Thank you. Sarbvir, I would like to put you on a spot now. If I look at insurance sector, India is highly underpenetrated in insurance. And you need to come up with new solutions, if I may say, almost on a daily basis to get your customers buy some kind of an insurance, right? Since you're creating these new solutions, there may or may not be a lot of loopholes as well, right? So I just wanted to understand from you, whatever new solutions you're creating using AI, how do you make sure that bad actors are not coming and using those new solutions and gaming the system?
I mean, that's an excellent question, and it's part of life. I'll give you a real life example. We were the first to introduce in our industry this concept that when someone is doing a video verification, we would instead of meeting the person, you could do a video verification, and we were making various checks against that photo and all that kind of stuff. And we saw one day that one guy basically fooled us. He held up a photo. There was some photo held up in front of him, and they kept moving the photo, and to the machine, it was fine. Now, obviously, when a human sees that same thing, they are able to tell in a second that this is wrong. So then, we went into liveliness and various other things. We said, okay, you have to watch whether the eyelids are moving and things like that. So, someone explained this to me very well. He's a very experienced person in the industry, that there is actually an industry who is there to, essentially fraud the insurance industry. Those people are running a business. They are not some, random people who woke up this morning and said, ki chalo yahan se kuch paise nikal lete. They are doing this as a job. So whatever you do, right, they will figure it out. I'll give you another example. We started, there are a lot of these Aadhaar cards which have 1-1 as the date of birth. So there's some thing goof up where a lot of 1-1s are there. So we said, okay, 1-1s we will treat separately. People started doing 2-2. we used to do, we said that people who fraud buy small value policies. They would pay 1,000 rupees a month, 2,000 rupees a month. Now people have started buying 8,000 and 10,000 rupees a month policies. So I think it's a never ending thing, and you have to remain very, very vigilant, because like I said, these people are professionals. They are doing it to make a living. It's not an amateur versus professional battle. And I think whether generative AI is there or not, these people will figure it out. And see, what is our goal? Our goal at Policybazaar is to say that if you want to do something wrong, we are the hardest place that you should come to. And that's what we really try to drive. Because honestly, we don't believe that we can be responsible for so much change that nobody will do fraud in the industry. That's unfortunately too hard for us. But we said, if you want to come to us and you want to do for anything, you should do that. And last point, I just want to tell you all that things are not what they seem. Like, you would think that digital should be better than analog at picking problems. But it's not true. Actually, digital is a place where a lot of these frauds happen, because there is no human being involved. Like you said that, we should not have human beings involved. But yes, I mean, I would love to agree with you. But the problem is that minute, you don't have a sort of proper check, that's where people come through. So it's a very tricky thing, and you got to manage both, I think. But like I said, see, the thing that you have to remember is that the good people always outnumber the bad. So it's not that 100% of people are doing all these things, and we want to give those good people, recognize the good people upfront, and give them a better experience. That's really our goal.
Thank you. This is typical Jugaad at work. So I think AI needs to train on Jugaad as well. So Navnit, you dodged my last question. So I will have one bonus question for you. So the question is, there is a lot of skepticism in the industry, in the market, that there will be privacy breach when AI uses data, right? So the question I have for you is, do you think such skepticism is going to stifle the innovation, or how do you respond to such folks?
Yeah, so this is a very crucial one, and I think anybody in the audience, including all of us who's running an AI engine, I think privacy dampening AI models is an unfortunate reality today. Is it going to stifle the growth of AI? I think our answer is no. But what's going to happen on privacy settings, what's going to happen in how you contain data, what happens in terms of taking a consumer consent, a counterparty consent, those models come into play. I think one very, very prime example that I can think of, since you mentioned fraud detection, is MasterCard, one of the world's largest global payment companies, also invested in Pinelabs. They run something called a diligence engine, which is for preventive fraud detection. And wherever there are breaches on privacy around the counterparty in the network, they are able to pick it up. Now today, if large firms are able to do it on a network which is, kind of flowing billions of data, I'm pretty sure there are models that can get applied to any part of the world. But Ajay, on this point, I think it's a concern which is here to stay for the near term. But I would really urge maybe the fraternity out here to work along with government bodies or para-government bodies to look at what are some of the policies that are required as necessities to set it out. And I don't think these policies are going to put a pause on the innovation of AI, but they're going to give the outcome in a manner which is truly ethical. So yeah, it's a tough one, but we all have to solve this together.
Thank you. Thanks. I think this totally makes sense. And I think we're running out of time. Any questions from audience? Anyone wants to ask? I can see a hand over there.
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you for the inviting session. My name is Indrajit. I'm a founder of Factasy. We provide AI as a service to other founders. My question is that we've talked about ethical AI, and in the past 1 year, we've heard Sam Altman reach Congress seeking help for regulations. Just yesterday at the IID event in Bangalore, the Honorable Minister for ITBP, Mr. Kharge, said that the government is always responsive in terms of policy making. There's no active policy before the event happens. So it's always reactive. So during that time when the policy comes, is it every company's responsibility to manage their own AI policy? And if yes, what is the best ethical policy to have? Because every company might be okay with some kind of ethics, not every company will be okay with some kind of ethics. So who's ruling that? Who's that body that's running this ethical AI problem? It's an open question for anybody.
You want to take this, Sarbvir?
I think the problem is not different for AI as it is for anything else. We have a very simple rule. Do unto others what you would like others to do to you. So if you feel that something you are comfortable saying that yes, my data should be used in a certain way, I think that's the only way you should use others' data also. Now, of course, it's easy to say this in a glib manner because real life is shades of grey. But I think in fact, if you ask me, the role of, I guess, senior management, if you can call it that, is that only to act as a guardrail against some of these things, which in the short run may appear very good to do, right? It is, in the short run, like I said, you can get very good results by doing somewhat unethical things, and not just using AI, but, in general business. But we all understand that in the long run, it doesn't work like that. So I think that is the role, and I think in AI, like you said before, honestly, I am not a huge fan of policies, etc. I feel that, they tend to create, anyway, let me not go there. But I'm saying that, I think it's best that every company, especially a responsible company who believes that they are going to be around. Like we always measure ourselves by saying, we want to be around for 30 years, 100 years. So we try to do things in that way. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen even next year, forget about 30 years later. But we want to do things like that. And I think that's the best way to handle all these dilemmas, because these are dilemmas. There is no obvious answer which way to go. But I think that's the spirit and ethos of a company then I think comes out, right?
I think there is a disambiguation needed when you said you are not a fan of policies.
No, so no puns on Sarbvir, but I will completely endorse what you're saying. It's a matter. So Inderjeet, are you running this company? Are you one of the founders? So your values as the founder will percolate down to the last engineer, to the security guy who's manning your doors, and what you set as what you feel is ethically right, AI or no AI is right. But I have a suggestion for you, and we deal with many, many companies which are going through a massive, rapid transformation on cutting-edge technology, which the government, which the industry will play catch-up on. Now, the event that you are attending today, TIE, is an event not only for you to connect with peers, but also to connect with many seniors in the industry and take their inputs. It doesn't take too much effort to make a small working group and say, you know what, we are AI as a service, we are serving, let's say the media companies or the gaming industry or let's say the fintech company. What are some of the guardrails that we need to start putting in before a policy maker needs to come in? Believe you me, and having been in the industry for a while, the regulator is also looking for proactive responsiveness from new founders and new industries to say that we're happy to make a sandbox, but can you come and put up a risk management framework? So my 2 cents are, there's no right or wrong answer on how you want to play this. It's your choice as a founder. But this is a very august room, and this is a very tight-knit fraternity of you getting ideas which you may or may not wish to implement on. So maybe you collaborate here and try finding out. And troubled people like Ajay, they are leading Microsoft's effort on some of these things, apart from troubling the three of us.
Thank
Sir,
you.
this is Malik here, sir. I'm here. So, I'm happy that you mentioned about Mr. Navnit. You mentioned about upskilling and cross-skilling. So, as an employees or as an employee, they should be ready. How far the company is guiding the respective employees? Sir, this is the upcoming technology with respect to AI you should be upskilled with, or you should be cross-skilled with. How far the efforts the companies are taking to upskill their employees? How should it be? Because of the tight schedules, the employees having, few might be aware, few might not be aware of this technology, and few might not have some time, or few